say that this is a borderline terrorist incident. He knew, in my opinion, that venue will be holding a dance class with young girls in it. I would say that all of these stabbings were caught on camera. Had he set up pillowcases in his room, for example, and worked out the best way to cut, to slice, was his intention to keep on murdering until everyone had been wiped out, which is what Thomas Hamilton wanted to do? Did he stab just white children? Did he stab Asian girls? Did he stab black girls? From the photos we've seen, they tend to all be what we call IC1 or IC2. Merseyside police, in their total arrogance, have put up a statement and said people should not be making assumptions. Well, for F's sake, give us some information so the gaps get filled. Is it purely a murder team, a homicide team that are dealing with this? Or is there in any way any intervention by a police terrorism unit?
Thanks for coming on the channel on such short notice.
No problem. It needs. We've got to deal with this immediately because it is a big issue. This.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's always good to have you on. So, as someone who's served 28 years in Scotland Yard, I wanted to get you on here today to get your views and your take on the absolutely brutal, savage, and totally unnecessary stabbings that took place in Southport on Monday. The victims being a pool of innocent 6 to 12-year-old little girls. Absolutely barbaric. I've got some latest kind of bulletins from the news I want to quickly read out so we're up to date. So 5 children and 2 adults remain in critical condition after the deadly stabbing in Southport on Monday. 9 children in total were stabbed. 3 children are now dead in what the police have called a ferocious attack at a Taylor Swift themed dance and yoga workshop. So I'll say that again, a Taylor Swift themed dance and yoga workshop for 6 to 12-year-olds. It is just outrageous. A 17-year-old male has been arrested on suspicion of murder. He arrived by taxi, refused to pay, which is superfluous now. Walked straight into the event where screams were heard. Police say he's originally from Cardiff and that he lived in the village of Banks near Southport. Police are saying that the incident is not being treated as terror-related and they are not looking for anyone else. Now, the first thing I want to say is an extension to the families here. I want to say how I'm so sorry to the families of all the children involved and that everyone is thinking about you all. There are no words to express how disgusting this is. This feels like a very, very, very personal attack. I'm sure you'll agree. And the feeling is one of absolute sadness mixed with total anger. The first thing I want to ask you, John, and I don't expect you to have the answer to this question, but why? Why did this happen? In your experience as a Scotland Yard detective, what's the possible motive here?
Well, you're asking why. Why is one of a group of questions. We've got to ask who, what, why, where, and how. Okay? I think it's called the 4 W's and an H. We don't know at this moment. And what I find frustrating is how downplayed this has been by the media. It's unbelievable. We've had mass killings before on children. We had Thomas Hamilton, the Dunblane murderer, who murdered 16 people. We also had mass killings with Michael Ryan in Hungerford. And it was everywhere. It was splattered everywhere. I listened to the initial news reporting by Sky and had this wishy-washy journalist who was turning around and was just saying, we think this must be a major incident. Well, what do you mean you think? It is a major incident. It's a critical incident. It's a national tragedy, right? So there's a lot of unanswered questions. And the first, if we got to look at, the police will be called to the scene, all right? And it will be whoever has called the police, it'll be their description of what's going on. I would have said that there's a crazy guy stabbing children, right? They turned up. I don't know whether he was on scene or not, whether he'd made off, but he was arrested. What we need to know is that the Liverpool Merseyside police are dealing with this, and you said it's on suspicion of murder. So is it purely a murder team, a homicide team that are dealing with this? Or is there in any way any intervention by a police terrorism unit? Okay, because We don't know who this guy is. There's bits of information coming out that he's the offspring of Rwandan refugees. When I was giving evidence at the National Inquiry into the child abuse cover-ups, the IICSA, I made a point that what we need to know and what was being dismissed and covered up by social services and these various NGOs that look out for kids. They had a political agenda, and I said we need to know the ethnicity of the pimps and the ethnicity of the children, okay, and the ethnicity of the clients. It's important because we need to profile, and when we profile, we can prevent crime. And then people intervene and say, but this is racial profiling. What does it matter? If it protects children, what does it matter? We need to know the ethnicity of the suspects. We need to know the ethnicity of the victims.
Why
And
is
the
it so
intent,
important to get the ethnicity, though?
because then we can work out what exactly we are doing. Every bit of information is highly important. And then we can profile and we can work it out. Now, this is what I'm coming down to in respect to when they're searching this guy's home, his parents' home, or any address connected to him, right? Have they got any intervention or assistance from the counter-terrorism command? I would say yes, they have. Now, to make it a terrorist incident, someone has to be doing something for a political, racial, or ideological motive, right? And is ideological is just a body of ideas that someone has. Now, searching this guy's house is highly important because you can get into his head, right?
Yeah.
You can get into his mind. Why? Why? Who is this guy? We don't really know. Is he 17? It's convenient for political groups and for the Home Secretary for him to be 17 because they can withhold his name, right? If he's 18, you know that won't happen. He's now legally an adult, and his name can be put out there. How do they know he's 17? How do they know, right? So he must have had some ID on him and everything else, and now they know where he lived. There's going to be neighbours that know this guy. There's going to be people that went to school with him and everything else, right? So who is he, right? Who? What did he actually do? We don't know. Now, 3 children are dead, and these are, you're saying they're aging from 5 years old to 12 years old.
6 to 12, yeah.
6 to 12, right? Right, young girls. Now, is the whole group young girls, right? Are they of a certain demographic of our society? Was he indiscriminate on who he stabbed? Did he stab just white children? Did he stab Asian girls? Did he stab black girls? From the photos we've seen, they tend to all be what we call IC1 or IC2, European or Southern European. I think one girl, she might be Portuguese or of that descendants and that. All right? Is this a hatred against young girls? Is this a hatred against young girls that are white? We don't know. We need to know everything. When you investigate, it's about information that goes towards an issue or away from an issue, towards a person or away from a person. We need to get inside this guy's mind. In his home, his computer, his laptop, his mobile phone. What is he looking like? Has this guy been radicalized? What are his previous convictions? Here's another major important one that we don't hear much of, and I'm a real campaigner against this stuff, and it's cannabis, right?
Okay.
People sit there, chillax and all that. It's bollocks. It's rubbish.
Messes this up.
It destroys brains. 80% of inner city murders are done by young kids with cannabis psychosis. Let that sink in.
Wow.
80%. 40% of UK murders are done with a knife, and most of them knives are kitchen knives from a house. What knife did he use? Did he use his mother's kitchen knife? Did he procure a knife for this purpose? Was this premeditated? Which will indicate whether it is murder. Murder, right? What we got to look at, some of these little kiddies have died very soon after the event. Maybe one died at the scene, right? But murder will go on to 3 years after the event if someone dies as a result of their injuries. It used to be
Right.
a rule called a year and a day. Within a year and a day, if someone dies of their injuries, it is still murder. So we don't know how many he's murdered. In 3 years' time, if we still got the same amount of children, then it will be grievous bodily harm for the others, attempted murder for them, right? Was his intention to keep on murdering until everyone had been wiped out, which is what Thomas Hamilton wanted to do. Thomas Hamilton, when he burst into that school, he wanted to go in on the assembly and shoot every child in the face. And his intention was that no one would ever recognize them, right? He approached a young kid who was late for school, and he asked this kid about the time, because Hamilton knew when the kids go in at 9, assembly starts at 10 past 9. So they have a muster time in their forms, go to the hall, settled down, 10 past, and that was his target. This kid lied, didn't want to get in trouble, and then as a result, the timeline was missed, and he had to then go from classroom to classroom and didn't get his opportune amount of body count. What was this guy's intentions? What are his previous convictions? Is he known to police? Is he a user of high THC skunk, as the kids call it now, loud? They call it loud. This skunk weed is termed loud. All this, I hate this romance speech, loud and all that rubbish, right? Is he smoking that? We don't know.
Do you think we're being told all the facts? If the police do know about his background and what he's into, do you think that we are being told all the facts?
We're not. This will only come out in disclosure. The police now need to interview this guy. Is he mentally ill? Is he known to a CAMS team, a mental health welfare team? Is he known to them? Did he attend a special school? Has he got previous convictions? Is he known to the counter-terrorism thing? I would say that this is a borderline terrorist incident.
So the police are saying that this is not terror-related. Now, I've got the definition of terrorism here from Wikipedia. I quote, "There are various different definitions of terrorism with no universal agreement about it. Different definitions of terrorism emphasize its randomness, its aim to instill fear, and its broader impact beyond its immediate victims." Now, that sounds like a textbook definition of what this guy's just done.
Well,
is this terrorism?
Well, we don't know, because we don't know what this guy's purpose is. Right now, that you're saying there's, but there's not. There will be legally, things have to be defined. All right, and then it will then pigeonhole where it is. But for the policing, it will be the purpose of advancing a political, religious, or ideological cause. That will be the police in objective of terrorism, and the anti-terrorism command will come in there. Ideological thing is a body of ideas. Does this guy have a body of ideas? His purpose is to advance this body of ideas? Does he harbour a hatred, right, of Christian values, for example? And bear in mind, Christianity is the most repressed and attacked religion on the planet. Christianity is, all right? There are murders of Christians all over the world because of their belief system. Is this guy a Christian? Is this guy a Muslim? Does he have, if he is a Muslim, does he have radical ideas? Is he pursuing and advancing his ideological and his religious cause? Right, the other thing we got to look at is premeditated. Right, this was a dance class, a Taylor Swift themed dance class. It was an innocent
Very wholesome
holiday camp. Now, we're in the first week of the holidays. Was this first day that it ran? Was it advertised? Did he research this? Had he seen this thing before? Was his target young girls? Now, if there's an adult, I'm telling you now, I don't know much about this, but I'm basing this on what I do know in previous attacks, especially where children are, right? Any adult that would have been stabbed in this incident, I'm telling you now, will be a female, and they will have stab wounds to their back, because women have a natural ability, right, an innate need to protect children, good ones, not horrible, aggressive ones who hate kids, of which there are quite a few. So it will probably be women that run this. Now, if it's a venue of young girls, there will have to be safeguarding measures put in place, and that's because legally they're going to need it, and also the parents will want it. They will demand it. If you've got them young girls there, they're going to need to know that the staff have all been CRB checked, that there isn't any weirdos working there, and rightly so. And there will be an incredible amount of CCTV. Buses have got incredible CCTV. Every single bus has got something like 13 to 15 cameras that are live and operating. It's a busy part of the world, Southport. It's a coastal town, and so I think that telephone footage has been acquiesced. I think that the counter-terrorism unit is involved in this. That is my opinion. It'll be interesting if anyone makes a freedom of information request on this, or it comes out in disclosure that they were drafted in to work alongside the homicide command for Merseyside police. So he's going to need to be interviewed. He's going to need an appropriate adult, which could be his mum, or social services might provide them. He will then get legally represented, right? And the interview process will take place. They're going to need to charge him with something, a holding charge, so he can be remanded before a court. So the police are going to need to find out what happened. Who, what, where, why, how. All right. They're going to put to him the footage they had. I would say that all of the stabbings were caught on camera, internal CCTV. I would say every one of them. This guy took a taxi there. Now, did he take a taxi from his home?
I believe he did.
Right. So again, he didn't patrol the streets. This wasn't random. If that's the case, he knew, in my opinion, that venue will be holding a dance class with young girls in it. Had he surveilled that area? Had he made plans to go there? Was his timing bang on right? Did he work out his entry? Is there a locked gate? Is there what they call implied access? All these things will determine his mens rea, right? His positive mental action, right, to commit a crime. And then you have a thing called the actus rea, which is a physical element of committing that crime. Did he take that knife with him? What knife is it? Is it a bad knife, a Rambo knife, a zombie knife, whatever? Did he research knives? Had he been practicing how to stab? Had he set up pillowcases in his room, for example, and worked out the best way to cut, to slice? What were his actions on that day? When he got there, was there any randomness to his attacking, or was it consistent with someone who knew what victims to take? Was he only going to attack girls? Was he only going to attack white girls? Was he only going to attack Mediterranean girls? Was there a demographic to his attacking? We need to know these things. And this will come out of interrogation of his data storage devices. Did he practice the knife, the weapon? So what you've got to look at is each topic. The venue will be a topic. You need to research this venue. What do you know about this venue? Had it been advertised online? Did he know someone who was going there? Did he know someone who worked there? Why? Why would he go there? What is his problem with young girls? Okay. Is it because it was a collection of girls and he was an inadequate man? He might not been the sort of guy that had the social skills to go into a drinking venue, for example, a party venue.
Yeah.
Is there a history there that in some way he'd been abused by a woman?
He either A, left the house to go and commit murder, got on a taxi and went out in that taxi, and either A, he saw the first opportunity to do what he wanted to do and he came across, oh, Taylor Swift dance class, let's go in there, or B, he knew all about this dance class. It was researched. He knew about it, and he was always going there. So that's something that I'm trying to work out whether he planned to go there or it was just on the off chance that he saw it passing.
Okay, and then you've got to ask yourself why. What is it about Taylor Swift? Has he got a hatred of Taylor Swift? Has he got a hatred of young girls? Right?
Yeah.
Is this an attack because he has an ideology? Because he wants to wipe out Christians? We don't know. You know, a detective must have an open mind. Your mind must be like a parachute. It only works when it's open. You have to open your mind to things. That's why I'm saying it's important to know the ethnicity of him, of his background. It's important to know the ethnicity of the victims. Was it a predominantly a white class? Was it mixed? Did he stab, or any of the victims, mixed race, black, Asian, Muslim? Are they? We don't know. These things we don't know, you know. Now, for the police to turn around and say categorically, this is not a terrorist incident,
I know.
I think that's very convenient for them to say that. That's why I'm saying I 100% believe, with an experienced mind, that the counter-terrorist unit are working alongside the homicide command. Now, this guy, he's got some options here. He can make no comment, right? And in the absence of what seems to be a lot of evidence, his legal team will probably tell him to make no comment. So this will probably be a no comment interview, and maybe to cover what's called a legal inference, that if he uses that as his only interview when he goes to court, his legal team will probably have a pre-prepared statement. Now he will then ultimately have to answer these facts. Whether he answers them in a subsequent police interview, which will probably be done once he's been remanded, because I don't think this guy can be bailed. I really don't. I think bail is going to be out of an issue. I'll be massively surprised if he is bailed, right? Or he answers these questions in court. If he answers them in court, he's going to be in a lot more trouble because his sentencing will be higher, because he hasn't taken that opportunity to account for his actions in the police interview, which would then give him a 30% discount if he did so on any sentencing. He's going to get life. I mean, there's going to be a huge amount of evidence gathering, and I would have thought that the investigators on this, they're going to be busy for the next 18 months on this one, unless he fully admits to what he's done. But again, the charges could go from attempted murder, GBH, to murder. But we don't know anything about this guy, but people will know. They say he's from Cardiff. Rumours are that he's the offspring of Rwandan refugees. Are his parents the victims of Civil War trauma? Are they abusive?
This is from the Telegraph, John. Neighbours said the teenager who committed the stabbings rarely left the house, with one saying he'd seen the boy get in a taxi shortly before the attack. Quote, "In all the time I've lived here, I've never spoken to the lad. I've never seen him out on his own. I've probably only seen him on 2 or 3 occasions. They just seemed a normal family. They were very quiet. The dad would say hello and how are you? That sort of thing. I used to see the dad helping his other child in and out of the car, but the lad in question was never out. It was shocking to discover it was a neighbour who had been arrested." Is there anything you take from that?
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
much, really, is there?
Well, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We just don't know. Were they known to social services? What was this kid like at school? Was he withdrawn? Was he a victim of bullying? What is their religious denomination? I don't know whether Rwanda is a Christian country or Muslim or a mix. Don't know. Were there social services intervention because of allegations of abuse? Things like that. We just don't know. If he was spending time indoors, what was he doing whilst indoors?
Yeah.
Was he being neglected? Was he being abused? Was he being repressed? He could be full of hatred, full of anger. Obviously, he is because of what he's done. But my interest is in the demographics of the victims here. Has he chosen them? Is it an attack on youth because he had a bad youth, a bad upbringing? Why girls? Is this a predominantly an all girls dance group?
I think it might have been.
Yeah, was it to do with the fact of their colour, their age, or a mixture of everything, or some of it and not some of others? We have no idea. Like I say, the police will know, and what they. But I don't know. I mean, I think that to rule out terrorism that quickly is a bit odd. Is a bit odd. It's definitely murder. It will definitely be the homicide team. They'll be the experienced ones, without a doubt. There'll be family liaison officers posted, it's a massive incident. It's a huge, major, critical incident. But the Sky News have really downplayed this. I mean, I don't think I'll even watch them ever again. Sky News. It's appalling. They put it down to like it was a minor traffic accident. It was weird. It was so strange, but it's caused a lot of anger, caused a lot, and rightly so. So
The
you know,
the feeling amongst the streets is it's this feels very, very personal. This it feels different to any crime I've really heard of before, apart from the Ariana Grande one. It's got shadows of the Ariana Grande bombing, though I feel this is more savage because it's it's one of the most personal ways to kill, a knife, or if not your hands strangling someone. And it's got shadows of the Ariana Grande bombing to attack our children. And do you know what, John? A prison stretch, which is obviously going to be the outcome, it don't feel like enough justice. Life imprisonment does not feel like it's going to be justice enough. Like, how do we punish this guy for this?
it'll be double category A. And what's going through his head? I mean, also, is he involved in witchcraft? Is he a Satanist? Is he worshipping darkness? There's many murderers who said that the devil told them to do it, or God told them to do it. Been many murders where people have been dabbling in the occult and have gone on to stab and murder. There's I can't remember her name. There's a girl. She went around just killing men, and she was heavily involved in the occult, and said she just got taken over and went out on the spree of murdering men, and that's in the UK. So we don't know. We don't know what's going on in his head. Is he mentally ill? We don't know.
Well,
Just don't know.
I've got something written down about that. Now, I know people are mentally ill. It's quite rife. It's very spoken about these days, and rightly so. I know a lot of people that suffer from mental illness. We all do, and the older I get, the more people I encounter that I've got mental health problems. Now, I really hope they don't try and basically insult the families and the public by pulling out that mental health card, because that hand has been played on so many times, and it's such an easy cop out that keeps getting used. Like I said, I know many people who've got mental health problems who don't go around murdering or stabbing up 9 children at a Taylor Swift dance class. So this card's been played so many times. Like, it's a bit of a cop out, isn't it?
Well, it depends. He might be mentally ill. He might hear voices that tell him to kill people. It does happen, but he'll be assessed. I'm friends with one of the premier psychiatrists for the Home Office. He's done interviews with me in the past, and it's his job to actually go and diagnose and interview and look at people like this guy. Maybe he'll get in touch with me and give me his opinion on this.
Yeah.
But so any due process has to take place. There will be a trial. This guy will be represented legally, and they will want the best for him, for their client, and that's the justice system that we live under. Fairness for all.
Crazy.
If we take prolific paedophiles, they go on to cause so much damage. They might not murder someone, but how many people die as a result of bad life choices, addiction, suicide, because they've been abused by these people? An FBI therapist turned around and said that one prolific paedophile can have as many as 1,200 victims in the lifestyle, whether it's direct or indirect, and the trauma that it causes. So we just don't know. We don't. I don't think that the police are being fully honest with us. I don't think they're telling us exactly what we're dealing with here. The press are just mainly concentrating on what they class as the extreme right wing influence in rioting, and missing the point. Missing the point totally. I think you're going to see more and more on like sort of right wing activism now than you are actually on this case. But knives are readily available. This is what happens when you stop and search, when left wing influence gets involved and diminishes the police's stop and search powers. Like I said, 40% of all murders are caused by knives. 80% of murders in London are caused by young men with knives, with cannabis psychosis. Stop and search would go a long way to prevent a lot of their murderers. I gave a talk at Mothers Against Knife Crime, a protest, and I asked parents, both mothers and fathers, what they would want the police to do, predominantly to a black audience, because unfortunately, statistically, a lot of the victims and the suspects come from that demographic as well. And I said, what would you want the police to do? Every single one unanimously said the same thing. And these are members of the black community, bear in mind. They said, more stop and search.
Interesting.
And I was very, very surprised by that response. They said, John, if the police had stopped and searched these young lads on the street, my son would be alive to this day. I mean, when Thomas Hamilton was convicted, there was a ban on the ownership of handguns. So the law radically changed in respect to firearms. What will happen with this? Will there be more police patrols, more stop and search? But we need to find out this guy's motive. What was it? What was his reason? And it's only then when we get the two factors to any crime are the mens rea and the actus rea. And Latin terminology, but one is the mental intention and the physical actions, and they coincide. What was it? What was his mens rea? What was his purpose? His mission, his reason.
It's interesting you talk about who his targets were, and because I'd not thought about that. Obviously, children, but was there children in there of different skin color and whatnot? And did he just go for the white children? That's quite an interesting point you've raised there.
It's important. It's important to know. It is. Because you're getting into his mindset. Then was it indiscriminate, or was it the fact that it was indiscriminate because his victims are all of the same demographic, or was it mixed? If it was mixed, are there any other ethnic groups that are hurt here, or is it predominantly just white kids? It's and then we might be getting close to finding out, is this ideologically motivated or not?
How will he be being treated right now by the police? Will they be dealing with him differently because of the severity? Will they be going softer to try and get more out of him?
There'll be more intense sort of activity around him because he's high profile. So they're going to be very concerned about officers leaking stuff to the media. Mm-hmm. He will forensically, the integrity will have to be preserved. So he'll have his DNA taken, his clothing would have been taken. There will be an extension. I would have thought 24 hours in custody, that can be extended to 72. I would have thought the authority would already have been granted to keep him in.
Yeah.
The Police and Criminal Evidence Act will kick in of 1984, so that will govern how he is treated, how he is detained. He'll be kept in a cell. He'll be given his breaks. They'll probably be doing half-hour checks on him. We don't know his mental state. Is he suicidal? He's a juvenile in the eyes of the law if he is 17. So that there'll be certain restrictions on how he's kept and things like that, which will differ from how an adult's kept. But not a great deal. But the process is the same. But there will be an appropriate adult appointed. So whenever he is interviewed, he will be represented legally due to the severity of the offence. Even if he declines the services of a solicitor, one will be called because it's so severe. He's looking at multiple life sentences here.
Never
Either
get
way.
out, will he?
No, he's not. No, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. He's going to be locked away. And that's that. And he may be mentally ill. Don't know. I would have thought there will be mental health problems here because no one in their sane mind does this. I mean,
what do you think that prison would entail for him? It's obviously going to be sick, isn't it?
Yeah, he's still a juvenile, so he'll end up in a secure unit. I don't know which one, but he'll end up in a juvenile institution, a young offenders institution. There's a good chance he will be segregated because there'll be a lot of hatred aimed towards this guy. And that can go on for quite a while. I mean, we saw Ian Huntley was injured last year, and he murdered Jessica and Holly back in I don't know when that was, early 2000s or something. Yeah, so a long time ago now. So there's still like hatred aimed at him. Again with Peter Sutcliffe, he was always getting attacked and things like that. And I actually know a guy who brutalised Ian Brady, one of the Moors murders. He caught him in the shower.
Good.
He said it was just my job to do it, John. So I did it. I smashed him up. So as a guy I know quite well.
That'll make a few people that I know quite happy to tell them that.
yeah, without a doubt. So, but yeah, no, it was it's a guy who's a friend of mine really, and he told me once. He said, he's a Christian now, so he wouldn't do such a thing, but back then he wasn't. So it was game on. But yeah, it's due to this kid's age, really. It's disturbing. It's really disturbing. It shows how information can change your opinion because they lived in a village. I don't know how long they lived there. It looks like they moved from Cardiff. Why Cardiff? Does his father own the house? Has he got a mortgage, or is this social housing? And why will they move? What's the background? Look, when you're looking at murder victims, you don't know because they're dead. So you must look at how they lived, and you know how they die. Know how a man lives, you know how a man dies. And it's profiling. It's things you need to know. So we need to know about this guy's life. It's all important. And as a specialist interviewer, I would want to know all of this. I'd want to know if there's been what they call MAPA, multi-agency public protection panels held against this lad. The housing department, what information do they hold on him? His schooling, his social circle, who he hangs around with, his parents. What do we know about his parents? We don't really know anything, but the police should be on this. And also, as an interviewer, you want to come up with as much information as you can to put it to them, so they don't use that in their defence.
Yeah.
Okay, and it says that in the caution. You've got to look at the police caution. You do not have to say anything. It's everyone's right to say sod all, to say nothing, but it comes at a cost. But it may harm your defence. So his side is going to be the defence. It's going to be harmed if the officers know what they're doing. If you do not mention when questioned, right? They're going to question him. It's up to him whether he answers them questions. But if he doesn't, it may harm his defence. on information if you later rely on in court. So if he then goes to court and says, I did it because of this, and they can say, you were asked that in interviews. You were asked that. So, it's important to know, was he bullied? Was he bullied? Bring it up in the interview. What was your schooling like? Was you bullied? There might be an argument of relevancy. I'd say that this is highly relevant. Religious indoctrination. Are the family Christian? Is he a convert to Islam? We don't know. Does his parents practice witchcraft, indigenous beliefs, which are prevalent in Central and Western Africa? Countries like Benin, it's 40% of voodoo worship. So whatever people say about their belief system, it doesn't matter what your belief system is. These people believe in witchcraft to a 40% of the population degree. Would that be important? It could be wholly important. They believe in the demonic, the presence of the Oshun, which are like your ancestors communicating with the dead.
Why do you think that children are targeted? What's the reason for that?
Well, children are the innocents, and especially when it comes to ritualistic abuse, children are very important, and the blood spilt of a child is a reward to the demons. That's what they want. They want the innocent hurt, and there is a demonic reward for doing it. Because if that is the case, that then I would be looking at the fact that is this lad involved in any sort of witchcraft, that and an attack on children would satisfy my curiosity in that respect.
What's wrong with society in 2024, John? What's going on?
I don't think it's ever changed. If we look at, you've got people like the Son of Sam murder in America. I mean, they've actually only just sort of really sat down and spoken with him, and he's turned around and said he did all the murders because he was involved in Satanism, and it was something that they didn't even pursue or look into. Like I said, it's about having an open mind. We are losing our way as a society. Especially when his neighbours don't know much about him. Now, years ago, look, Thomas Hamilton, who shot all the children, again, was seen as a loner. Michael Ryan, the Hungerford massacre, again, seen as a loner. We're seeing the same pattern when neighbours spoke to, didn't know much about them, they seemed friendly enough, and I lived a few doors down from a young family, and again, very withdrawn, very quiet. The children were very shy, wouldn't interact with the other kids. And mum and dad, very, very nice. Dad was found hanging one day in the garage, and then that opened this whole sort of can of beans up, can of worms up. Sorry, that's the term, isn't it? In respect to it, and it turned out that this guy was a prolific paedophile and had been beating his wife and raping his daughters for years. Has this kid come through that? Is he full of anger and hatred because of abuse that he suffered? You just do not know. You do not know. That's why good detective work will look into all of this background. And it's important for detectives to do it because I say that when you're interviewing, it's called an evidential pathway with many doors. And you've got to shut these doors legally to prevent your suspect taking it and using it as a get out. Because otherwise, if they do it and you haven't covered it, and again, it comes back to the caution. It's like when you get terms and conditions for a credit card, or when you're booking a holiday online, they come up with all these terms and conditions, basically saying if you want your money back, you ain't getting it. But you just they gabble it, and the police do it when they arrest someone. You don't have to say, "Do you understand?" And of course, the person doesn't understand; they just nod. But legally, you've got to say the caution. But when you actually analyse the caution, it's a very cleverly worded contract. And it can get used in what's called an inference, which is a common sense decision in the judicial process to absolutely muller your suspect. And a good interviewer will keep reiterating the power of the caution to the person. You do not have to say anything, say nothing. But if you choose that path, it may harm your defence. It says it in the caution. If you do not say something which you later rely in court, whatever you tell us, we are going to use it against you. So whatever you tell us, we'll be using it in our case to destroy you. And then they're cautioned again when they're brought into custody. They're cautioned again when they're charged, if they want to make any comment to charge. They are cautioned at the start of an interview. Cautioned, constantly cautioned. And they're cautioned in the court as well. And the oath is given in the court. So they take it to a deity level in the court. So, and if officers know what they're doing, it's a very, very powerful weapon. Unfortunately, we have gross incompetence through lack of experience, lack of training, and lack of tradecraft in our police, which is a major failing in our police. I was contacted by a senior officer, now retired, and said, John, I now help with various forces around the country in training direct entry detectives. So not like me, where I had to go on the street, do street work, and then make my way through a very arduous process and take one of the hardest exams in the policing world to become a detective. And then I had to be accredited in order to get, that detective warrant card. It's a long, tough process. And now they're basically giving it. And this senior officer said to me, he said, John, I know of two detectives, 2 years experience, and they have been given a very complex murder to investigate. He said it's wrong. They don't know what they're doing. They're worried. They're frightened. They're totally lost. They're totally out their depths. But that is now the norm. And this is what we're seeing now. Policing is being failed at a massive level. The government have got rid of all police stations virtually. They've got these big industrial units now where they've amalgamated boroughs, amalgamated forces. They've taken away perk after perk of being a copper. And the experience has gone. It's a bit like doing an online course on bricklaying and then saying, right, there's your bricks, there's your mortar, build a house. And you can't. You need the old sweats, the old school, old boys and girls to show you how you do it. And also, what you need to learn is confidence and intonation, and reciprocity with people. I give you something, you give me something, you know, um, and that's what it's all about. Coppers have to be good people persons. They have to. And any successful copper is very good with people. It's all about information. It's a very snaky business, but that is the business it's in. You know, that's the game.
John, where does this rank for you in terms of how heinous these crimes are? Have you ever heard of anything as barbaric as this before?
I've been to multiple stabbings. Um, I've given first aid, remedial first aid on the street at multiple stabbings. So I can imagine what the scene must have been like post event. It must have been horrific. But let's imagine this guy. He turns up from home in a minicab. He refuses to pay. So clearly that's a bad sign. He's now bilking the taxi and he's making his way. We're assuming here because the police, Merseyside police, in their total arrogance, have put up a statement and said people should not be making assumptions. Well, for F's sake, give us some information so the gaps get filled.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to fill these gaps if you're going to tell us nothing. Now, I think they're deliberately not telling us the ethnicity because they don't want racial issues occurring. I think they're deliberately not telling us the religious denomination for very, very similar reasons. I think they're deliberately not doing it.
But
So
we're going to
people,
find out anyway. So they're digging their own grave then, if that's the case.
exactly, exactly. So people are going to fill in the gaps.
How do we go about preventing this kind of thing from happening again?
Well, if it's a terrorism offence, then they do have the prevent campaign, and they sort of proactively go out there and try and find out where people are being radicalised, and try and intervene and stop it. So is that a recognised campaign called Prevent? But when it comes to anomalies such as this young man, would stop and search have applied? I doubt it because he's got in a taxi and He's not really gone into the public domain as such. Would the police have had any intelligence on this guy? I don't know.
You can't just stop and search anyone, though, can you?
No, you need grounds. You need grounds. But is he a gang member? It doesn't look like that's the case here. We just don't know anything about him. I mean, the news is putting out appeals on behalf of the police that people shouldn't speculate and assume, but they're telling us nothing about this guy. Absolutely nothing. So, sorry, hiccups. I don't know. I don't know how we could have, until we know more about him. I mean, knife crime in itself, we know we can do a lot. We can have more coppers on the street, more stop and search. Clamp down, I would say, harder on public cannabis use. They don't seem to bother about that now. That for that reason that I mentioned earlier, the fact that cannabis psychosis is prevalent, and 90% of young men that are suffering from schizophrenia have been regular cannabis users. I mean, that stat alone should frighten people, and the government should be intervening, because how are we going to deal with this huge influx of people with schizophrenia? Until we know more about who this guy is and what motivated him, and then we can analyze it. But I say we just don't know if what has driven him. Is it ideology? We don't know. Is it a cultic behaviour? We don't know. Is he mentally ill? We don't know. We just don't know.
Of all of the research I've done on the perpetrator, I've found no image of him. I've found no information about mental health, no information about convictions. All I know is that he's a 17-year-old born in Cardiff. That's it.
But born in Cardiff,
could be anyone.
to Rwandan parents, and that is it. So same here. Have no idea. We don't know. I would assume if his ethnicity is that he's Black African. That's what I would assume, based on where what been told he's from. But again, religion, his build, his demeanour, nothing, absolutely nothing. So until they release more, I would say in the next 48 hours, we'll know who he is, because they'll have to charge him. He'll be charged with murder.
It'll be an interesting few days now.
Yeah, I would have thought he would admit to it, but there will be footage out there. Without a doubt, there'll be footage out there. They won't be able to silence some of the victims and their families. The kids will all have to be interviewed. There seems to be more survivors than there are those that have been killed. So there'll be a lot of parents talking, their local people. And again, that part of the world, Liverpool, it's got a history of sort of standing up for justice. If you look, you can't buy a copy of the Sun newspaper there because of what went on with it. The football incident all them years ago. Yeah, so they're pretty staunch on that regard. So small. They'll be talking amongst themselves, community, and leaking information out, and it'll be getting out there. Would it affect the due process? No, I think they've got enough on this guy. They've got enough on this guy. He's that's it. You ain't going to see him again. But we'll wait and see. But it's a one-off, isn't it? Could we have seen the warning signs? Well, I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows?
Also, like I said, that's why it's going to be an interesting few days and weeks to hear more information about who this guy is and what his beliefs are, etc. John, do you think this is going to change the future of security at children's events and activities and events, stuff like that?
Well, I hope not. I mean, they shouldn't be penalising summer camps and clubs because of this. But I mean, it's going to put a lot of parents off. I mean, questions are going to be asked. But how far do you go without curtailing freedom? Freedom's the most important thing that we have. Sorry, got itchy nose. And I hope it doesn't. But we don't know what motivates this guy. If he is motivated by an ideological religious reason, then the prevent mechanism should kick in, and they should be looking at potentially protecting kids from further incidents like this. But until we know, we don't know, and I hope it doesn't infringe. But it's going to scare a lot of parents. I mean, it's like when the Yorkshire Ripper was running amok in Leeds. Women were frightened to go out.
Sadly, as well, in this social media age with TikTok and Snapchat and all of the other ones, like kids of primary school age and early secondary school will know about this now already. 10, 11, 12-year-olds will know what's happened because you can't escape it. They're going to be absolutely bricking it because we've got the whole summer now to come, August. Yeah. They're going to be bricking it going to a dance class, to boxing, to whatever kind of hobby, football, whatever hobby you get up to over the summer camps.
Well,
there's going to be a lot of anxiety, isn't there?
A mosque was attacked in Southport as a backlash to this, so that would indicate maybe this guy is a Muslim, and it could potentially cause race hate crimes to skyrocket.
I heard about that. That was so at the recording of this, it is the 31st of July. So that happened yesterday, Tuesday the 30th. I only saw that today. So for there to be an attack on a mosque, there must be some intel from locals that know who this person is and maybe why he did it.
Well, again, sometimes we can't trust people's intelligence, because when they wanted to implement Sarah's law as a in a knee-jerk reaction to little Sarah Payne that was murdered by a bloke called Whiting.
Roy Whiting.
Roy Whiting. So as a result, they wanted like they do in America, where the names and addresses of local paedophiles to be published. And so they decided, a lot of these vigilante groups, to start outing people and taking revenge attacks on suspected paedophiles. They burned down the house in Portsmouth. This is how feckless and stupid some of them are. They burned down the house of a paediatrician. And the guy said, I'm a paediatrician. I've made it my vocation to help children, not to hurt them. Again, you get this. You get this. A work colleague of mine is a Sikh, and a turban wearing Sikh at that. And when the 7/7 attacks got, he was attacked on the tube and cast as being a Muslim terrorist. He's a Sikh. Some people are thick and they're dangerous with their ignorance. So I don't know what the correlation with the mosque is. Is this based on good quality information that this guy, the suspect, is a Muslim and has used the attacks as some base of ideological campaign that he had? Therefore, it would be terrorism. So we don't know. We just don't know.
It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a very interesting and intriguing few days and weeks now to see what information comes out. John, I want to thank you again it's the third time you've been on this channel. We've talked about a few different topics now. I always appreciate getting your insight into certain matters. I appreciate you taking the time out at such short notice. I'm sure that the viewers will be very interested to have watched this video and got your take. So thank you for sharing your time with us, John.
It's an absolute pleasure, Luke, and stay safe, and anytime, my friend, just let me know.
Yeah, no problem. Speak soon.